What's up, y'all? Xanderosh here, and today we're talking about something that is near and dear to my heart, Megaman. I was around 9 years old when I became a fan of this series in, say, 2015 or so, which was actually a really weird time to become a fan, as it was probably the peak of the franchise not getting jack shit for content. There was no games nor anything else coming out. Megaman had been abandoned, which in effect is sort of the case to this day. I mean, since then, we've gotten a grand total of 1 game, and outside of that, just re-releases and broken promises. It's almost funny because this is the exact opposite of what Mega Man was known for historically, which was pumping out literally dozens of games a year. It begs the question of how exactly did we go from that to this? Well, what if I told you that it might have been that very oversaturation of games itself, or as we like to call it, milking, that caused Mega Man to be in this static state? There's a lot to unpack there alone, but it's also not purely just that either. The death of this franchise, while it has that primary identifiable factor, is also a complex issue with additional factors behind it. And in today's video, we'll briefly be taking a look at what killed Mega Man. Starting all the way at the beginning in 1987, the Nintendo Entertainment System had taken over the world by this point, and a Japanese gaming company known as Capcom was looking to get their footing on the system. Super Mario Bros. Had laid a foundation for what a successful video game looked like in that era, and that formula was a side-scrolling platformer with a marketable character at its center. So Capcom followed suit and released a platformer of their own. It was Mega Man, a game that featured this blue robot guy whose entire gimmick compared to Mario's jumping and powering up was instead shooting and stealing the abilities of bosses. It was a really fun and innovative concept, and the game failed miserably. So of course it got a sequel, and by some miracle, that sequel is a smash hit and flies off the shelves. If you had a Nintendo at the time, you were pretty much guaranteed to have a copy of Mega Man 2. Like, it's still to this day held up as one of the most iconic games of the 80s. And with this success, Capcom saw a vision. Really successful video game franchises like Mario and Pac-Man had received such strong pushes after their initial success that they transcended into mascot characters with an empire's worth of profitable content. Capcom saw an opportunity for Mega Man to become the same thing. So they started to really try growing the franchise, and that is where the milking begins. Of course, we had our sequels to start, and to paint a picture as to how crazy it got, Mario had 3 main series games on the NES, which was considered a lot. Mega Man, as we discussed already, had that 1 and 2, then got a 3 to match Mario, a 4 to surpass Mario, a 5 to go overboard, and a 6 to suck every fucking penny out of the goddamn system dry. And wouldn't you know, these traditional sequels alone are not even the half of it. We got a series of 5 portable Game Boy Mega Man games, a digital board game spin-off, a soccer spin-off, an arcade fighter spin-off, remakes of games when they were still only like 5 years old at most, and then came Mega Man X for the Super Nintendo, featuring a completely different Mega Man from the one that we know, with a similar concept but a very separate identity. Mega Man X became a sub-series of its own within the franchise, getting its own sequels and spin-offs, X2, X3, X4, you get the idea. And just when you start to think that Capcom is putting all of their focus towards the X series, nope. Still gotta make more sequels for the classic games on the new system, so we get a Mega Man 7 on the Super Nintendo, a Mega Man 8 on the PlayStation 1, and then the industry moves towards 3D games, so to capitalize on that, Mega Man starts up another new sub-series called Mega Man Legends. And even with that series being a commercial flop, it manages to get a couple of games. Then, the secondary character from Mega Man X known as Zero becomes so popular that they decide to give him his own sub-series, so we get a Mega Man Zero and all of its sequels. And if that wasn't already a crazy amount of games as it was, the centerpiece of the milking, and actually my personal favorite sub-series in the franchise, is known as Mega Man Battle Network. These games were pretty far removed from what Mega Man was originally, being RPGs based around the internet rather than platformers based around robots. There was so much going on in this sub-series due to the fact that it was trying to compete with the likes of Pokemon and Digimon. There were separate versions of these games. You could probably sink over 30 hours into each game, and beyond the games it had a TV series, a manga, and a toy line. Now, a lot of people mistakenly believed that Battle Network was some hopeless, unsuccessful project that Capcom was mindlessly pouring money into for years, and as a result, believed that Battle Network was the primary thing that needed to be eradicated eradicated from Mega Man's milking for success. There are two things wrong with that. First of all, a corporation would never do that much at a loss. And second is that it's just the opposite of reality. Battle Network, outside of maybe the all-time classic Mega Man 2, is the most successful thing that the franchise has done. The ratings for the show in Japan were very high. Battle Networks 3 and 4 were some of the Game Boy Advance's best-selling games, at 1 million and 1.3 million units sold respectively, and the Battle Network Legacy Collection destroyed all the other Mega Man Legacy collections that came out. And it makes sense. Battle Network was very necessary for keeping Mega Man relevant amongst kids in the 21st century. I mean, part of the reason it's my favorite is because us Gen Z/millennials really liked gimmicky things as kids. And this series scratches that itch with all of its various forms and net navies and battle chips. So yeah, Battle Network alone wasn't at fault, but it also wasn't free of eventual dumb business moves that really hurt Mega Man. Not to mention, there's still a whole bunch of other areas that need to be cleaned up with the milking. To illustrate the problem and how I think it should have been fixed, let's take a look at the year of 2003. We had quite a few titles released this year. We had Mega Man X7 on the PS2, Mega Man 02 for the Game Boy Advance, the Black Edition of Mega Man Battle Network 3, Mega Man Battle Network 4 and 2 versions Red Sun and Blue Moon, Network Transmission as a side-scrolling take on the Battle Network series for the GameCube, a side-scroller Battle Network for the Wonder Swan, Battle Chip Challenge as a turn-based Battle Network and also for the Game Boy Advance, a classic Mega Man mobile game, and a Christmas classic Mega Man mobile game. Let me tell you exactly what's wrong with this. Throwing so much crap at a wall creates brand confusion amongst kids and parents. Like I said, Battle Network 4 sold amazingly well, but I'd bet that it probably didn't even maximize the sales that it could have gotten because of the fact that you get parents buying the wrong thing or kids being too intimidated to get into the franchise because of how much they see. So let's cut some of the crud out, and the first thing that's gotta go is Mega Man X7. It's not even because it's one of the worst games of all time. It's because we were supposed to end at X5. If you were gonna have another X game, it should have been after a decade plus long break. The classic series did that and it worked out great, but Capcom opted against it here and it resulted in really low sales. And then we also just don't need platforming and turn-based spin-offs for Battle Network, so get rid of Network Transmission, WS, and Battle Chip Challenge. And then same thing goes for the mobile games, we just didn't need them. The Zero series stays, though I reckon it probably shouldn't be on the same system as Battle Network to maximize sales. They sold decently as it was, though primarily appealed to older fans, who by this point were more so console gamers than handheld gamers, so I would have put these games on the PS2 or GameCube, and then the main series Battle Network games can stay as they are. Some people like to complain about dual versions, but it was a money-making move at the time. So that cleans up the year of 03, and I think what it means for Capcom in the 2000s is that they should have just been focusing on the mainline Battle Network and Zero games. And I mean, that's kind of what happened by force in the coming years, where we'd see less extra crap coming out due to low sales. But even removing that, there were bad business decisions made in the coming years that needed to be changed for Mega Man's own good. In 2004, we got the next Battle Network game, Battle Network 5. After Battle Network 4 having two versions led to a sales boost, Capcom decided to do something really weird with this one, having two versions for it as well, Team Proto Man and Team Colonel, but they only released Team Proto Man for the holidays of 2004 and waited until the next year to release Team Colonel, which led to confusion about them being two separate games and far lower sales for each of them. If you come out with two games, you gotta release them at once, that's just how it is. Then in 2005, we get 04 and Battle Network 6, which are the final installments in their respective series due to the Game Boy Advance's lifespan coming to an end. And Battle Network 6 did have a great sales recovery from 5, though it was close to having gutted sales too because of another strange move. Around the same time, they released an upgraded version of Battle Network 5 for the next generation Nintendo DS. I believe that the only reason this didn't impact Battle Network 6 is because the market weirdly didn't acknowledge the DS as the Game Boy Advance's replacement until around 2006. But you can see how this could have been really bad from a brand confusion angle. Many parents or casual fans could assume that the one on the newer system is the newer game. Then we move to 2006, where Zero and Battle Network's successor franchises are launched on the DS, ZX and Star Force. ZX could once again be on a console system like the Wii, and the first Star Force game has two problems. One is that it released in 3 versions, Leo, Pegasus, and Dragon. With how Pokemon set up the version model, it's easy to assume that one of them is a definitive third version. And if not, that many versions can turn people off thinking that they'll get too little in one game. But then the other thing is that while Star Force 1 was decently successful, sequel, it wasn't a great success like a lot of the Battle Network games. It achieved a solid 600,000 units sold in over a year and accounting for the international release. Battle Network 6 achieved the same number in just its month-long launch window alone, and just accounting for Japanese sales before it launched internationally. Meaning that there was a pretty notable downturn in sales between these two games. That didn't make Star Force a lost cause or anything, since it still did well enough, but it indicates a bit of fatigue and need for more spaced out releases. I can't fault Capcom for initially doing yearly releases with Battle Network, since sales were great and often trending upwards. But when there is a bit of a sales fall, taking a year or two off can be really beneficial. It makes the next release feel more special, attracting more attention, and also introduces it to a new wave of kids that might have been too young beforehand. Had we waited till 2009, I reckon the sequel would have done much better. But instead, in 2007, we get Star Force 2 and ZX Advent. Now, the ZX games from the get-go were not very popular, and after the massive failure of Advent, Capcom decided to focus on a different Mega Man platformer. Definitely taking the right initiative there. The same can't be said about Star Force 2. Capcom once again released it in 3 games, Zerker, Saurian, and Ninja, decided to weirdly package them as 2, Zerker X Saurian and Zerker X Ninja. So not only did Capcom, like I said, release it too soon, but they somehow made the whole brand confusion mistake worse. And for the first time, the game just straight up did not meet sales expectations and sold badly. You would think that a failure would incentivize Capcom to take a break, but nope, in 2008 we get Star Force 3. Now surprisingly, there was actually nothing physically wrong with this launch. There wasn't 10 other Mega Man games released alongside it, there was no other Mega Man DS content, it released in 2 standard versions, Black Ace and Red Joker, but it was just too late by this point. Capcom had already doomed the Star Force series, which is a shame because Star Force 3 was a fantastic game and really the peak of the series. After this failure, Capcom tried one last-ditch effort to save the series. They remade the first Battle Network with the Star Force crossover built into it, and after that failed, they just deemed Mega Man RPGs as no longer popular and discontinued them. The cornerstone of the franchise for this decade being done for felt like a massive blow to Mega Man as a whole, and here theoretically should have been where it died. But that wasn't the case, at least for a little bit. The discontinuation of the ZX series led to the revival of the classic series. We got a Mega Man 9 and 10 released digitally, and they were well received amongst people that grew up with the NES games, even being in the same 8-bit art style. And there were more games on their way. This new and exciting concept in Mega Man universe, the Legends series was being brought back after a decade with Legends 3, we were getting an online Mega Man game. It's weird because companies usually gut franchises after repeated bad sales like Mega Man experienced in the late 2000s. But Mega Man still had some life in it, and the reason why is because there were still some people who deeply cared for and believed in Mega Man at Capcom, particularly Mega Man's founder KJ Inafune. He ignited a drive behind Mega Man within the company during this time, until he wasn't there. In October 2010, Inafune parted ways with Capcom. Without his push, the company just couldn't look past the fear that had been created from low sales. And like that, Universe canceled, Legends 3 canceled, Online canceled, and every other Mega Man project canceled. We went a couple of years without any movement from the franchise whatsoever. Capcom eventually started releasing legacy collections of past games, and finally, after 8 whole years, Capcom released a Mega Man 11 in 2018. This was perceived as Capcom's way of testing if there was still interest in the franchise, so fans made sure to buy it up and actually made it become the best-selling Mega Man game ever. It managed to get a lot of attention from the gaming community at large, so this was sure to be the revival of the franchise. Fast forward 8 years later, we haven't gotten a single game since then, and we're unfortunately in the exact same place we were before when I first became a fan. Looking back, Mega Man 11 being a test for interest seems to have been a lie. It was either just to show investors that Mega Man was an active IP, or maybe to spite Inafune for his Mega Man knockoff project Mighty No. 9. I don't know, but clearly the negative attitude behind Mega Man still runs strong within Capcom. It's an irrational attitude given that Capcom caused it with their own milking and mismanagement, which by the way, I'd consider that to be the primary reason rather than Inafune's departure, considering Capcom in the past went against his wishes to end certain sub-series due to high sales. So if the games were still doing well when he left, they probably would have kept going. But nonetheless, it doesn't change the fact that we're where we are today, and it's really sad. Especially considering that even during the rockier parts of Mega Man's history, it still could produce some banger games. I'm not saying that we'll never get a Mega Man 12 or X9 or whatever, but it'll take some consistency for us to truly be out of this state, which might never happen. And that's pretty much the video. It's my first time ever talking about Mega Man on this channel, so be sure to let me know if you want more Mega Man content. Also, be sure to watch my videos on what I was scared of as a kid and my Pokemon starter ranking, which will be linked at the end. Or if you want something more similar to this, I did make a video on the rise and fall of Power Rangers a few years back, so definitely check that out too. But with that, I'm Xanderosh, and I'll see you guys later.